Alright, what's up guys? What's up? Welcome to Shortfin Mako night. So this is a little bit of a different vibe, and we got a lot of cool stuff going on for tonight. There's so much material on this shark, so I am really excited about it. I think it's going to be really cool, and it's episode 40. Episode 40, so I'm super psyched. And what's up, Howard Care, Roy, what's up? Good to see you, Roy. I haven't seen you in a while. Howard, welcome back. Thank you so much for this awesome artwork, by the way. Like, actually, honestly, Howard, like, I think this is the best one of the year so far. This is rad. So this is super cool, but it's good to see you guys. Hope you guys have had a really good weekend. It's Labor Day weekend in America, so we had today off, but, you know, we never have a day off for shark night. You know, it's Monday night. It's 9 o'clock. I'm just ready for sharks, man. So, but yeah, Roy, it's been so long. It's good to see you again. Yeah, I know a lot has been going on lately, so I know the schedule's been really busy. So it's good to have you back. Yeah. So what's fun for tonight? Howard and I were talking about music, because like one thing that we talked about when kind of like the whole streaming started was originally viewers were gonna like choose music selections, and I kind of like forgot about that actually as it kind of went on because we were picking sharks. But Howard, I brought it back and it was like, Howard, what do you want to do for today? And he was talking about Motorhead. So, which is excellent choice, by the way. I also love Ace of Spades in the artwork. Excellent. I mean, it's just, you can't beat Motorhead, man. So, I try to find something Motorhead related that would be kind of like, you know, like it's rock, but it's also something that we can kind of, you know, focus on as far as like the shark information and like research and stuff. I couldn't find Motorhead specifically, but I did find this really cool channel. So quick shout out to, hold on. This is called Jason Lewis Mindamend. Let's go ahead and subscribe to that. But basically, there's a couple channels like this. I usually don't listen to music like this, but it's like actual study music where it's kind of like, you can pick a genre, but you can switch like I'm not as musically oriented, but like the waves, so that it works well with like either studying or sleeping or whatever, but this is a really cool mix of rock music that I thought would be appropriate for a Motorhead-ish themed night. So something that is like rock, but also works well with just being able to focus and being able to kind of go over some Shortfin Mako stuff. And there's a lot to review. So before we dive in, just again, shout out to this beautiful piece of art. I think, Howard, this is so far the best for this year, and it's just so wild. So I love, and I actually, do you know what? That boat looks a lot like the Jaws boat. If I is that kind of like, is that modeled off the Orca? Now that I'm seeing this, like from Jaws, because it looks awesome either way. But we got this beautiful Shortfin Mako shark, just incredibly well proportioned, and especially with the short fins. So not as many people know that there's actually two species of Mako shark, the Shortfin Mako, which is the classic Mako shark and the one that everybody knows about, and then the longfin Mako, which I think is actually a bit rarer. Longfin Makos really don't get as much airtime as shortfin Makos, and I think that is something to do with just they're not as common. But yeah, there's two species of Mako, but yeah, this is just awesome. This beautiful capture of just like the head shape and the teeth, like especially those like classic Mako needly teeth, you know, just perfect teeth for like a highly piscivorous diet, which is really cool because this shark, you know, it's an excellent predator and most of its diet is fish. It is kind of like it doesn't really go after larger prey item. I mean, like, it does go after large fish prey, but like not like, it does not go after marine mammals or anything. It is definitely 99% of its diet is fish. And I love that there's a swordfish in this photo because this is one of the biggest things it does go after. And these two, Mako Sharks and Swordfish, they kind of famously duel each other in the ocean. Because like Mako Sharks will go after Swordfish, but Swordfish will fight back, and sometimes they'll actually spear them, which is kind of wild. And sometimes there's been theories that swordfish get aggressive with Makos, which is a little weird. I don't know how verifiable that is, but it's something I've heard of. Just from Fishes of the Gulf of Maine by Bigelow and Schroeder made an interesting observation that they've seen Mako sharks with swordfish bills stuck in them, and they wondered how much of that was like aggression between like a swordfish and a Mako shark. Like, who was really the aggressor? Was it the swordfish or the Mako shark? But these are two classic titans. Probably most famously in pop culture, Old Man in the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Santiago captures this beautiful swordfish. It is a swordfish. Sorry, I just want to make sure it's not a it's a swordfish, not a marlin. But yeah, Santiago captures this beautiful swordfish, and then a Mako shark starts eating it. And so there's this big battle between Santiago and the swordfish, well, not the swordfish. I guess the swordfish is dead, but swordfish, Mako shark. There's a dynamic going on, and they're big. They're big pelagic wildlife. Like they're like great poster children for the open ocean. So super cool. Yeah. So it's been a while since we've got a lot of footage, but we do have a lot of cool stuff to review for Mako Sharks, and they got a lot of fun stuff in the books. Starting with Shark Biology and Conservation's got some really crazy statements on this species in particular. So, oh cool, sorry Howard, I just saw your comment. The boat is not from Jaws, but it is of that era. Gotcha. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, let's check out some footage of this species. Here we go. So, the reason I talked about shark biology and conservation in particular is they had one of the craziest quotes I've ever seen about sharks, where they talked about specifically, if you had to pick a shark that's like perfect, like firstly you can't, because every shark that is alive today is technically perfect in terms of like they're perfectly adapted to their environment. They adapt in different ways, that is best for their specific habitat. For example, Port Jackson sharks are squashy and cute and well camouflaged, and they work extremely well for their rocky seabed habitat. Mako sharks are perfect for the open ocean environment. So any animal that exists in the world today fits the definition of perfect, right? However, if you had to like really pick, if you had to really pick, like, okay, but come on, like what shark is like the best, in terms of like as far as like how natural selection has pressured it, like how it's evolved. They said, you know what, it's got to be the Mako shark. So, which that kind of quote really blew me away. And I pulled up specifically what it is about this species that kind of like gets that distinction. So it's a streamlined, almost cylindrical body with a maximum girth about 40% of the distance from the snout to the beginning of the tail, which minimizes the forces that acts on it to slow down. So basically the body proportions, like just for this species, like in general, the body proportions are like perfect for minimizing drag, which is really wild. Striking counter shading with blue on top and white on the underside, which affords an additional measure of stealth when foraging for prey. So super cool species. A caudal fin. Oh, let's rewind this. Oh, you can actually kind of see this, like, so just like a lot of mackerel sharks, you got this beautiful, strong caudal keel that helps with thrust. But yeah, a caudal fin designed for maximum forward thrust with a flattened keel at its base, which together facilitate high-speed swimming. Metabolic machinery. This is the big one. You know how like most like mackerel sharks, like the great white or the poor beagle, they're able to raise their body temperature. Like Makos have the same ability. They can raise their body temperature slightly higher than the surrounding seawater, which is wild. Metabolic machinery that keeps the body warmer than the water in which it resides, which enables more powerful muscles and faster swimming. Oh my gosh. A high-performance cardiovascular system to make sure the swimming muscles get the energy and oxygen they need to ensure wastes are removed. Ram ventilation, big gills, and large gill slits to extract oxygen required to power its metabolic machinery. So it's almost like we're talking about a car. Like this animal is just like, is all about efficiency and all about speed. Like efficiency to make sure it can be the fastest in an environment that's extremely challenging, as far as like the open ocean being a virtual desert, like a marine equivalent of a desert. Like it has to be the fastest possible to go track down prey, or capture like high speed prey. So a jaw full of recurved spindle-shaped teeth to grab and hold slippery fish, and a well-developed sensory system, and a large brain for collecting and processing sensory information. So they say it's the ultimate predator. Like if you had to pick an ultimate predator, it's this species. And I really love that they picked this species as opposed to like, you know, the classic like great white or tiger shark. I just think it's really interesting that they narrowed down the Mako shark specifically. Oh my god, look at this animal. It's so cool. There's a pretty famous clip, which we'll take a look at tonight. Just want to catch up on comments. Oops. I'm super excited for this, because not only do we have like a lot of cool footage to review, but there's also a lot of research on this species. There's no way we can actually maybe even get it done tonight. Like as far as like there's so much stuff going on with this species. So yeah, Howard, great comment. It built for speed. Like the Mako really knows how to do its own thing. It's wild. It's a wild species. So this is a pretty famous clip. Mako shark attacking a dredge. So this is basically like some kind of, I guess it's like a dredge array where they have, I don't know what kind of fish that is, but you can see like how fast the shark goes and like how it, you know, kind of like launches an attack. It's a pretty famous clip on YouTube actually. So man, this thing is awesome. I love how you can see, you can kind of very clearly see the lateral line and how it connects. Let me go back to that really quick. Look at that. So I love this view of the lateral line and then how it just kind of blends seamlessly with the caudal keel. That's really cool. So lateral line, every fish has it, but this is a really cool feature. And like every fish has it, like bony fish have this, but it's like a pressure detecting feature. So like when water, like when something moves in water, like and exerts force on like in the water column, there are special cells in this line that detects that movement. So it's one of the coolest things, like when the shark gets really close to a prey item, even if it maybe can't see it or somehow not smell it, if the prey item is moving, it's pushing water in a certain way, and these like these cells right here on this line are able to feel that pressure. So it's a really cool feature. I just noticed it's very pronounced in this species, which is really cool. And I love how this is like slowed down too, so you can get a better view of that. Speaking of like the large brain, we were talking about sharks. Shark biology and conservation was talking about how this has a uniquely large brain among sharks. Look how big the eyes are in proportion to the rest of the head and the body. Even though it is a coastal pelagic predator and lives in the sunlit zone for a lot of its life, those are still really big eyes. So, and maybe like a helpful feature in terms of trying to find prey items in the vast blue of the open ocean. It's so cool, dude. This shark is awesome. I had a buddy who was researching the muscles of Mako sharks, and I think contributing to just kind of that general literature about how, like, its muscular efficiency, like how, like the muscle structure of Mako sharks, and he was comparing it to tunas too, because tunas have that a similar. This is so rad. Tunas have a very similar feature, where being able to raise body temperature or contract the muscles in a certain way just to maximize speed. Oh my god, this thing is so cool. So cool. But anyway, yeah. What was I going with that? I had a buddy who was researching that, and it was really cool that it was a multi-species study that was comparing Mako sharks to tunas, and just studying both. They're very, very different kinds of animals, but yet they occupy a similar niche. This thing is so cool. and kind of like studying like how that musculature compares, and like what are some nuances that the Mako shark might look at those jaws the Mako shark might have versus the tuna, and vice versa. So let's rewind that really quick. Like, just look at the jaws lunging forward like that. So it reminds me of a cousin of the species, sand tigers. Sand tigers famously lunge their jaws forward. It's so cool. And like, I'm just noticing now, like, he's snagging all these fish. We started with like 4 fish. I think now we're down to 2. He's getting them all. Oh, man. So, wild fact, something that we actually learned together this year is, in terms of great whites evolving, or white shark evolution, they actually evolved from a prehistoric version of this species. So, the theory is that Carcharodon white sharks actually are kind of like technically a beefed up Mako shark. So, like back in the, I think it's the Miocene, there were Mako sharks swimming in the sea, and then a group of Mako sharks just got bigger and bigger, and were, concentrating more on like, or evolving to handle bigger prey items like whales, and then those eventually became the white sharks. So the great white, or also just like ancient white sharks like Carcharodon plicatillus, or Carcharodon, what's the other one that I always talk about? Plicatillus, and there's a really big one. I can't remember it right now. But anyway, prehistoric white sharks, the evolutionary theory is that white sharks are actually evolved from Mako sharks, so from ancient Mako sharks. So it's super cool group. So oh yeah. So shout out to we got it. Oops, sorry, I don't want to click on Excel. Sorry about that. Shout out to these channels that have this stuff. So we got Lucas Walter. So I just subscribed to that. Really cool footage from that, because I just saw that comment on footage. Davey 8128. I don't know if this is a re-upload or if this is. I think this is him. So, because like this is a super popular video. This whole trailing Mako shark stuff. So this is a really popular video. Probably one of the biggest, like the first like shark videos on YouTube that is kind of like reaching a general audience. And we got Anthony Kabrowski with a pretty cool dive video of Makos and blue sharks. No. Let me quit Excel, sorry about that. I'm so excited, I keep like misclicking things. I feel like the past couple streams have been just like doing that more often. But anyway, this is a really good shot of what shark biology and conservation is talking about as far as the counter shading, just how sharply demarcated like the top half of the body and the bottom half of the body, whereas like you have that nice white cream color on the bottom and then like this slate, like, you know, almost navy color on the top. Super cool. And what's cool, it's nice seeing this video comparing blue shark, or like not comparing, but like it's nice for us to compare a blue shark with a Mako shark, because these are in completely different orders, you know, but they do occupy a similar habitat. And something you can notice, like, okay, blue sharks proportionally also have large eyes in relation to the rest of the body. Sorry. Big difference between these, I don't think it's going to show it in this. I don't know if I just missed it. I was going to talk about the nictitating membrane, but I don't think it's going to show it in this. Oh yeah, it did show it. Okay. Let's slow that down really quick. Okay, you can kind of see it. So blue shark has that eyelid, the nictitating membrane, which is unique to its order, and Mako sharks don't have that. So that's an interesting difference between these two. Yeah, there we go. That's a really good shot of that. But anyway, sorry. It's not Blue Shark Night. We already did Blue Shark Night. So you can kind of see also comparing them. Like blue sharks are absolutely beautiful and they're very graceful. Mako sharks are more robust. And again, like just kind of like with this order, lamniforms in general, like there's something about the head. It's just like this beautiful, giant, conical head. Like white sharks have it, basking sharks have it, even sand tigers have it. And it is something that's just kind of like, it's a unique, like I definitely think it's like a characteristic profile of lamniforms, just like having that kind of like unique head shape. Blue shark looks comparatively a lot more compressed. It doesn't really have that same kind of shape. More flat, more spindly. This is like more of like this conical shape with like huge gills and then tapering into like this small, like smaller head. But it's just really cool. Overall, like I think just lamniforms and mackerel sharks, and this species in particular, is just super like robust looking. It's just rad shark, man. It's so cool. All right. And again, it's a Shortfin Mako. So this is not the. I don't know if I wonder if there is any footage of longfin Makos, because their fins are long, just like a blue shark's fins are long. They're actually proportionally like unmistakable. So someday we got to do the longfin Mako. Isurus paucus, I think is the name. Just to kind of like compare, because that'd be pretty cool. So let's see. I just saw this comment. Blue sharks just look like little sillies. Yeah. Oh, hey, this is cool. Makos have smooth edge teeth, whereas great whites have serrations on their teeth. That's really cool because, like, oh, there you go. Yeah, I just saw this comment. Serrated teeth specialized for much larger prey items, especially marine mammals. Yes. So I think I said it before, but it's fun to emphasize, like, serrations on shark teeth in modern sharks, and like having huge teeth with serrations, that's not common in the shark world. That's a really very unique adaptation. And it's like, I think like, because, those larger sharks capture our imagination because they're like dangerous, they get a lot more airtime, but they also kind of skew the perception that like, oh, all sharks have those kinds of teeth. And the reality is no, they don't like white sharks, tiger sharks, the white tips, and what am I missing? Bull sharks. Like they have unusually large teeth proportioned to the rest of their body, and the serrations and the ability to handle large prey items is unusual in the shark world. So most sharks are more like the Mako shark, just having like needly teeth that are excellent for capturing fish. So, but that's a really cool observation. That was a really cool observation, and important just to kind of like as a distinction between this and its larger cousin. Even though this is a beautiful predator and very intimidating looking, it is mostly a fish eater. But what's interesting is, like, I've heard Mako sharks, there's been incidents with Mako sharks, like shark bites, but it's not considered like a dangerous species like in the same way that a white shark is. Like it's not in the same tier. It's kind of more like considered to be like potentially dangerous. So, and I would say it's probably because like it spends most of its time in the open ocean, and it's probably curious about anything that is available. Is kind of like my guess, but again, as far as evolution goes, it's not really meant to handle larger prey items like marine mammals, or people. It's not really. This is not a shark I would consider to be like, a man-eater by any means. So, whereas a white shark, I would definitely consider to be like, yeah, that's a dangerous species. So, man, this is gorgeous. Now, I'm being a marine biology nerd because there's actually quite a few, you can kind of see them, jellyfish in this video, like ctenophores, like comb jellies. And I actually saw a few last weekend, so they're super cool. We're not talking about those right tonight. We're talking about sharks tonight, but just shout out to the ctenophores. They're a really cool group. And they glow in the dark. I think most species glow in the dark, but anyway. Oh, man. So yeah, described as the perfect marine predator. I believe this is a cosmopolitan species. Yep. So just checking our favorite friend, Sharks to the World. It is worldwide. As far as conservation goes, it's a pretty big one. Like Mako sharks are listed in almost every effort or treaty, CMS, ICAT. I don't know if I'm saying the acronym right, but anything involving like tuna or conservation as far as tuna trade. Like Mako Sharks are usually there. Mako Shark is definitely one of the most charismatic species as far as like shark conservation goes. Sites, it's a big site species. It's definitely something that is not really doing so well and is getting a lot of conservation attention, as it should. So definitely one of the biggest species for that. So man, super cool shark. Some quotes from Sharks of the World. It's possibly the fastest, most muscular, and active shark in the world. You know, and all sharks are fast. Like I've said before, all sharks are rockets. Like they, even the ones that seem like they're slow, they're conserving their energy. Like you like literally a rocket. Like as far as like how fast they can go. But it's really cool that this is like possibly the superlative species. Speeds up to 100 kilometers an hour in short bursts. So that is, let's convert that to miles. Because I know the Canadians know what that means. I don't know what that means as an American. So hold on. Kilometers per hour to miles per hour. So that's 62 miles per hour. So yeah. So, as fast as most interstate speed, or I guess highway speeds. So, most cars on a highway. This goes as fast as a car as a highway, or as fast as a car on a highway. So, super cool. This is viviparous. I'm kind of surprised by that. So, live bearing, 4 to 25 pups per litter. Feed on unfertilized eggs. So, just like a lot of other lambda forms, it's. I guess that counts as interuterine cannibalism, technically. I mean, I guess not, maybe not really if the eggs are unfertilized, but, because like sand tigers will do that. But anyway, but it does, like pups in the womb do eat unfertilized eggs, so I don't know. It tracks for that group, so. Let's see. At the time of publication, this shark is endangered. And is seen as a big game fish, and increasingly attractive for dive ecotourism. It's kind of cool to see that in this video, that there are divers with Mako Sharks. So this is from... Oh, this is Rhode Island! Hell yeah! Robert Cantrell. So, yeah, we should do this. Like, I am not that far away from here. So, Narragansett, Rhode Island. Super cool. This is actually, as far as like famous shark diving, this is probably the closest place to where I live, because I've heard of good diving in Rhode Island as far as sharks go. And actually North Carolina, sorry, Crystal Coast, North Carolina, has some cool diving too. So, oh hey, Roy, hey, I'm gonna star that. Cool comment. Makos are as fast as most roller coasters. That's true. That's actually a really good comparison. That one is hitting me in the gut because, as you guys know, I do not like roller coasters. Like, I can do them, but it's just the heights. So, man, very cool. Okay, so I think this is the last clip I have before we take a look at some research and just more of like a species profile. So. And this is really cool. This is some footage from Guy Harvey, Guy Harvey magazine, which, Guy Harvey is awesome. I really, I've done some cool projects with them before, back when I was in Florida, and they are really cool, and they were very nice. I had nothing but just positive things to say about, like, the people I've interacted with at Guy Harvey, so, I show respect for Guy Harvey, you know, just in terms of, like, more so on the conservation side, because I know they do a lot of different kinds of things, but, am I wearing a Guy? I am wearing a Guy Harvey t-shirt today. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but, but I like them. They have a special place in my heart. Again, more so on the conservation thing, so, and it's interesting, because it's cool that they're drawing attention to the species in an ecotourism sense, because, Guy Harvey is also, you know, a marine life artist, and also fishing is a big part of Guy Harvey's like brand. And this species, I'm gonna say used to be, I mean it still is targeted, I think, in some sport fishing, but it shouldn't be because it is a protected endangered species. Literally, as it's biting the hook, this is a species that should not be messed with and should not be caught on the hook. Oh, it looks like they're doing this for research, so that's okay. They're mounting a tracker on the shark's dorsal fin for research, so I'm cool with that. There you go. But anyway, this species used to be a really big... In America, it used to be... Oh, this is so cool. Look at this. Sorry, we'll go back to that in a little bit and slow that down. But this, in America, used to be a really big tournament shark. And it really shouldn't be now. I don't think it's legal to hook these now at all. Again, this is one of the most protected species. Like, literally, like I would say this and hammerheads are like the big no-no in at least in the U.S., where it's like don't mess with these. Like if you're going out on a fishing trip and you accidentally get this, please put it back, because this is not a shark to be messing with. It's just really not doing so well, and it's got a lot of laws behind it. So just watch out. But anyway, but it used to be like a really big tournament shark and like a really popular species, and I think as far as palatability, again, most sharks don't taste good, but I think Mako sharks have the highest quality meat, if I heard that correctly, as far as sharks go. But most sharks just don't taste good because they have a high urea content in their skin or meat. So, you know, don't eat sharks. Don't eat sharks. This is a really cool tracking study on where Mako sharks go. This is actually an awesome visual representation. And there's one thing we're noticing right here. So this is the Gulf of Mexico. We'll get back to that. Okay. So one cool thing immediately noticing right here is, check this out. So this light area right here is the continental shelf. So this is shallow water, and then it drops off right here. And what I'm noticing is, like, see how these individual tracks for Mako sharks, see how the sharks are going right at the shelf edge, but they're not going inshore. What's really cool about that is, and like they like to be spending their time in the open ocean and deep water. But what's really cool about that is the shelf edge is a really productive zone, because ocean currents are bring up like an upwelling. They bring up a lot of nutrients to the surface in an unusual way that creates a boom in bloom in productivity. And it's this cascading effect of, like, a lot of plankton are getting the nutrients, and then at the surface, they attract a lot of zooplankton, and that attracts a lot of fish. A lot of activity right at the shelf edge, and it's really cool to see that Mako sharks, that's where they want to be. They don't go inshore, but they like to be kind of like at the shelf edge or in the open ocean. So it's really cool. Or places where there isn't really much of a shelf. It looks like that's the Yucatan Peninsula, right? Yeah, no, you can kind of see it. Like, there's a shelf edge right there. It looks like they're around it. Yeah, the shelf edge is kind of close to mainland right there. Because, like, here in this part of the U.S., there's a lot of sediment coming down from, like, the rivers, and it's, like, built up over time, so the water's really shallow. But in deep water areas, this is where the species thrives. So, super, super cool. Let me speed this back up again. Alright. Alright, last clip, and then we'll get into, like, more data and profiles of this species, Mako shark. So, but yeah, what's really cool, kind of in my part of the world, offshore Virginia, it's the same thing. These guys do not come inshore, but they do love being right at the drop-off. Kind of right at the edge of the continental shelf. So, because we've done tracking studies with them in the mid-Atlantic, and that's really kind of like the happy place, is just being at that shelf break or in the open ocean. It's really cool to compare with great whites, because great whites do like to come inshore and they do want to be in shallow water, but Mako sharks don't. They much prefer to be in the open ocean or right at the shelf break. And it makes sense because Mako Sharks, again, they primarily hunt fish. They don't really go after cetaceans or anything. And white sharks, they hunt marine mammals. And, you know, where are marine mammals, and especially seals, going to be? Marine mammals like to be more in inshore areas, and seals need to be near beaches. So, you know, it makes sense that great whites prefer to be in shallow water and that Mako sharks prefer to be in deeper water, you know, given their prey preferences. So, yeah, super cool species. All right. So with that, sorry, that was a lot of good footage. It's been a while since we've seen a lot of footage, actually. So, catching up on some comments. Sorry. Nice. Roy, agree those two species stress out easily. So Mako sharks and hammerheads. Yeah. Like, it's a good PSA. Just like, 'cause I genuinely, I really don't think the general public really knows, like, the differences between shark species and, like, what you can and cannot land. Fishermen do, as far as the licensing goes, or rather they should know, like, what sharks you can and cannot land in different parts of the world. If you have a license, you really should know what is legal and what is not. But just as a general PSA for everybody, you know, like, if someone's vacationing somewhere, blah, 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 don't mess with hammerheads and don't mess with Mako sharks. Just don't do it, because, like, they need a lot. Most important thing is they need a lot of help. But the second most important thing is, like, dude, they're so protected. Like, don't do it. Like, so, same with white sharks. I would say the same thing with great whites. Like, just don't do it. Just don't mess with them. So, all right. So it's around 9:30. So we got plenty of time, I think, because there's just so much info. Also, shout out to Canada. Canada's got a really cool report on these species, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But there's so much info on Mako sharks that I think would probably be good is let's just do a general brief overview. And we're checking Florida Museum of Natural History. I see we got a couple more viewers than usual, so what's up, guys? Welcome. Just like a fun marine biology fact, Florida Museum of Natural History and Fish Base, those are two, like, really, like, quick and dirty websites to get, like, a brief species profile on pretty much anything, especially as far as sharks go. Like, marine scientists really like to use these two websites in particular as, like, it's kind of like a good ocean Wikipedia. Like, it's a good, like starting point, and then you can get into more information later. But just like a fun fact, because I'm noticing we got a couple more people tonight, so which is cool. It's a Mako Shark party, man. So, but yeah, starting with Florida Museum of Natural History. We won't read the whole thing. Just want to scan for anything new. So yeah, fastest shark in the world. This is interesting. It's slightly slower speed, but still, that's really impressive. 43 miles per hour, 70 kilometers per hour. I trust sharks of the world as far as, like, 100 kilometers per hour / 61 miles per hour. I trust that. So either way, you know, roller coaster speed. Let's see. Hydrodynamically efficient shark. Right, I forgot about this part. The crescent-shaped caudal fin, so the tail fin. So one cool thing, just for sharks in general, if the upper lobe of the caudal fin and the lower lobe of the caudal fin are kind of like the same size, it means this is like a fast animal or an animal that travels long distances. If the caudal fin, the upper lobe of the caudal fin is huge and the lower lobe of the caudal fin is, like, not so big, that means it's like a slowish shark that maybe likes to be near the bottom. But what's really cool is that Mako sharks are almost superlative in terms of, like, the upper and the lower lobes of the fin being equal. Meaning, like, this thing is fast. Like it is one of the fastest in the world. So fun fact for sharks in general. It's a good little rule of thumb that the caudal fin will tell you a lot about, like, you know where the shark likes to be, what habitat it is, and, like, how fast it is. So let's see. Oh, cool. Forgot about this too. Shortfin Mako is a very active species, often seen breaching in the water surface when feeding. So yeah, this also is why, kind of more so back in the 80s and 70s, it was a very popular sport fish, is because of the fact that it fights and it's fast, and it does do these like breaches when hooked. So I forgot that was like a part of it. Again, it's kind of cool. I know great whites are famous for doing that, like air jaws, but this is really, I would say, more the poster child for that, as far as like just launching out of the water. So it's a living missile. It is an awesome animal. So cool. Oh, I never knew this. Shortfin Mako's common name is derived from the Maori term Mako, which translated means shark. Okay, interesting. So Mako is a Maori word. I did not know that. Let's see. Other common names referring to a shark are blue pointer. Haven't heard that one, actually, in English. Oh, I like this. Squalo Mako in Italian. Very cool. Morajo in Spanish. These are cool. Okay. Yeah, shoot. Here we go. Shortfin Mako is considered one of the great game fishes of the world and is listed as such by the International Game Fish Association. Yikes. Wait a minute. What? Large sport... This is weird. Large sport angling for the species occurs in Southern California, New Zealand, and South Africa. But I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be doing that. I'm pretty sure that's not legal. Like, huh. We gotta investigate that. Shortfin Mako is also highly sought after commercially. The meat is consumed. Fins are used for shark fin soup. Liver oil is extracted source of MMA. Boo. Oh, there we go. Talked about it at the top of the stream, but Shortfin Mako is featured prominently in Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. Hemingway, who was a keen sports fisherman, caught a 786-pound Mako with a rod and reel off Bimini, the Bahamas, in 1963. Wow. Yeah. Endangered humans. Yeah. Okay, Shortfin Makos have been implicated in 10 unprovoked attacks on humans, one of which resulted in a fatality. Divers who have encountered Shortfin Makos note that they often swim in a figure-8 pattern and approach with mouths open prior to an attack. Shortfin Makos frequently damage boats and injure fishers after being hooked. It's interesting because it's just like, I'm like, you know, 10, I mean, like, shark attacks are so rare anyway, but 10 out of, like, the 1,000 shark attacks? I don't know how many shark attacks there have been in all of time, but it's just so rare and so small. And, like, 10 of them being Mako sharks is just, like, I don't know. It's a potentially dangerous species. I would never say it's a really dangerous species. I'd say potentially dangerous. It's just, you know, it's an open ocean predator that is curious about anything that's going to be in the open ocean, because the open ocean's a marine desert. So let's see, this needs to be updated because it's not vulnerable anymore. I believe it is vulnerable? What? Wait a minute. The Sharks of the World said Shortfin Makos are endangered. This is interesting. Let's check this out. Sorry, hopping over to IUCN Red List, which is a great resource for just assessing species in terms of whether or not they are endangered. They have a whole scale of, like, the worst being extinct, or the worst being extinct, the best being least concern. So vulnerable's not as bad. That was a cool range map of the species, so it could be found most places in the world, which is really cool, in the tropical temperate realm. Sorry, I'm kind of curious about why this is vulnerable, because it makes sense this is more of an endangered species, but let's see. Bycatch. Most catches are inadequately recorded and underestimated. A landings data do not reflect numbers finned and discarded at sea. A global assessment of vulnerable is considered appropriate for the species on the basis of estimated and inferred declines, inadequate management resulting in continuing, if not increasing, fishing pressure, the high value of its meat and fins, and vulnerable life history characteristics. Although it is difficult to accurately assess the conservation status of the shark because it is migratory and caught in numerous poorly monitored fisheries worldwide, it is reasonable to assume that decreases may be occurring in those areas for which there is limited or no data. Interesting. And then here's a note about subpopulations of Mako sharks in the Mediterranean. Need more data. I'm honestly surprised by that. I'm really surprised by that. And I think it's interesting to have this note that it needs updating, because it's like, oh, there we go. Look at that. Okay. 2019 Endangered. This is really odd. What just happened? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What? Okay. Are these two different? Oh, this is sorry, this is an older assessment. I got you. So this used to be vulnerable. Gotcha. This makes more sense. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't really understand what was going on for a second. So this is endangered. This is definitely an endangered species. So I'm not really sure why both assessments are on this website. So that's really weird. But yeah, let's see why this is endangered. Low biological productivity, triennial reproductive cycle, 3 years. So 3 years to reproduce and take a break. I'm assuming that's like 3 years total in terms of like, because a lot of sharks do that where they'll, I don't want to say be pregnant, but like they're, because that's not the right term. I think it's like gestation period. But anyway, most sharks have like a year and a half long gestation period, and they'll take a break after that. So I'm assuming that's what that means. Late age and maturity. It's caught globally as targeted bycatch in coastal pelagic commercial and small-scale longline purse seine and gillnet fisheries. Generally retained for high-value meat as well as fins. Steep population declines have occurred in the North and South Atlantic, with declines also evident, though not as steep, in North Pacific and Indian Oceans. So the rate of how we're estimating this is declining warrants an endangered species assessment. So gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. It's sad, but gotcha. Sorry, I just wanted to check that, because that really kind of threw me off. So it used to be thought of as vulnerable, but it's got updated to endangered. So sorry about that. That was a weird little detour, but oh shoot, sorry about that. Audio is fuzzy. Looks like it's back. So I love that comment. They're intelligent sharks. They're going to use their teeth-like fingers to try and investigate. Love that. I mean, yeah, it's true. A lot of sharks, you know, they'll bump. You know, bumping or biting is kind of like, you know, how they interact with new things. Although most sharks are shy. Like most sharks would prefer to like not investigate. But for the ones that do want to investigate, bumping and biting, that's the equivalent of their hands. So, but yeah. Howard, I thought I saw some Mako fishing videos in U.S. Atlantic coast. Man, really? I'm so confused, because it's like, I thought this is like mad protected. Like, hold on. Let's hop back over to ISM Red List to see conservation efforts. What's going on? What are we doing for this species? Here we go. Okay, 2008, Shortfin Mako is listed on Appendix 2 of the Convention of Migratory Species. Okay. Mexico announced its intention to propose adding Shortfin Mako to Appendix 2 of the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species sites. If the proposal is adopted at the 2019 CITES conference, I think it was, Shortfin Mako exports from CITES parties. We need to be accompanied by permits based on findings that parts are sourced from legal and sustainable fisheries. Globally, there are very few limits on Shortfin Mako catch. What? I'm kind of surprised by that. 2012, the General Fisheries Commission Mediterranean banned retention, mandated careful release of Shortfin Mako. 23 other Alaska ring species. So, it's up to us. We got to say, please don't fish Mako sharks. Don't do it. I thought they had a lot more protection than this. Wait a minute. Implementation by General Fisheries Commission Mediterranean parties, however, has been very slow. Spain is consistently the world's top shortfin Mako fishing nation. Ah, man. Okay. 2017 measure agreed by the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, ICAT. It is ICAT. There you go. In response to scientific advice to ban retention of overfished North Atlantic shortfin Makos, instead aims to maximize live release by narrowing the conditions under which shortfin Makos from this population can be landed. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting attention, but I thought there was more regulation. I do want to check out something related to that. Sharks. Regulation pertaining to sharks. I could have sworn this is like not something. Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, so what I just did, I'm checking out the Virginia Marine Resources Commission, but what Virginia does is what most states do, where this is not, I don't believe this is a Virginia specific thing. This is like, I believe every state has this, and it with the same species, where it's like, these are prohibited shark species, you really cannot commercially fish these. So, let's see. Shortfin Mako, yeah, you can't do it. You can't, so, let's see. Commercial shark fisherman means any commercial fisherman permitted to land and process sharks. So I guess you can fish for them recreational. Oh, here we go. Yeah. No, you can't. You can't. So, wait. Yeah, there we go. Recreationally prohibited shark. Okay, so you cannot fish for these. That's what I thought. All right. Okay, so you cannot either recreationally or commercially fish for shortfin Makos. Like, you can't, at least in the United States, you cannot do it. So, yeah, this is really weird. Odd, because, yeah, I had a buddy who got kind of in trouble, because I think there was a YouTube video of Florida fishermen catching Mako sharks, and then he commented, don't do that, rightfully so, and then he got some flack for it. But he was right. It's like, yeah, you really can't, you shouldn't do it. Yeah, sorry, I thought I was tripping for a second. Yeah, so this is protected. This is definitely like something you can't touch. So, commercially prohibited and recreationally prohibited. Gotcha. While we're here, let's check out what sharks you cannot fish for in the United States. So you got the Atlantic angel shark, also known as a sand devil. Which I appreciate. This species is actually doing okay, but I appreciate that you can't touch it. Basking shark, makes sense. Big eye sand tiger, interesting. We talked about that one recently. I don't know why it's on the list, but that's cool. Big eye six-gill, big eye thresher, big nose, the Carcharodontis ultimus. This sometimes gets confused with sandbar sharks. Caribbean reef shark. Caribbean sharp-nosed shark, Rhizoperodon porosus. That's interesting. We have a cousin, Rhizoperodon terranovi, the Atlantic sharp-nosed shark, which is doing totally fine. So that's kind of interesting. Dusky shark. This is definitely a do not touch this species. That is definitely an extremely vulnerable shark. So glad it's on this list. Galapagos shark, which also gets confused with dusky sharks. The longfin Mako, Icerus paucus. The narrow-tooth shark, Carcharodontis brachyurus. Isn't that the bronze whaler? Oh well, yeah. I think Carcharodontis brachyurus is also the bronze whaler, unless I'm really losing it. Okay. The night shark, Carcharodontis signatus, that's actually a really rare species. Very cool. Sand tiger, sadly critically endangered now, but yes, big no-no. Don't touch this. Sandbar shark, very vulnerable. Very famous research species. Seven-gill Hatranchus perlo. The shortfin Mako, or shark for tonight. Do not touch it. The silky shark, Carcharodontis falciformis. Six-gill shark. Small-tail shark, Carcharodontis porosus, that is also a rare species. The whale shark, which makes sense, and then finally the white shark, the great white, Carcharodon carcharias, absolutely mad protected. Do you know what's not on this list, though? Hammerheads are not on this list. That's ridiculous. That is like the most vulnerable group. It is nowhere to be seen here. You can recreationally fish for a hammerhead. That's insane. What about commercially? You can commercially fish for a hammerhead in the United States. That's really insane, honestly. I don't know why you can do that, because that group is super vulnerable. Like actually, as far as like sharks in the U.S. that are on their way to extinction, it's really, I would say hammerheads are like the big group. I don't really understand why they're permitted. Sorry about that. Sorry about this detour. I just was like, wow. Okay, so Mako Sharks, you're not allowed to touch them. That's what I thought. But hammerheads you can in America, which is really weird. I think that's very strange. So, hey Howard, sorry about that. Are they fished off the 200-mile limit? Good question. Ooh, good question. We were talking about that recently. I don't think so, because that would be. That's a really good question. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're referring to the law of the sea, which is if you're 200 miles offshore, you're technically in international waters, so you're technically not in the U.S. That's a really cool question. But I would think, though, for like recreational fishermen, that's way too far. Like fuel is super expensive, especially now. Like it's so expensive. So I don't think you would. I don't know. Like I don't think you would go out that far. I don't know what's going on with this. Like as far as like Mako sharks being fished today. I'm gonna assume what's going on is like, because it used to be a very. I mean, you know, Mako sharks were like a big. Well, yeah. Check this out. Sorry, hold on. Because didn't we just read that California has got a tournament? Let's figure that out, actually. Where did we get that from? That was from... Do you guys remember where we got that from? There was a quote saying that California was a place where they fished for Mako sharks. It was here. Okay, yeah. International Game Fish Association. Large sport angling for the species occurs in Southern California. I wonder if this is outdated. I mean, this is weird. Because like here's what I'm running into is like this species is super popular as far as conservation goes. Like it's got a lot of eyes on it. And I was right. Legally, you cannot fish for this, but it's historically a very famous game fish. So I'm wondering if maybe some of these regulations were recent, and maybe some people don't realize you can't really touch Mako sharks and are inadvertently maybe breaking the rules, or you know, are there exceptions? Like, these are really good questions for any current or future viewers. You know, this is a really good question. Like, what is the status of Mako sharks in terms of like you cannot fish for them. You definitely cannot fish for them recreationally or commercially. And I'm assuming that there's no more tournaments going on for them at all. Let's check this out. IGFA tournaments. But look at that, dude. Look at this. Like right in the logo. What? Sorry. Look at that. Look at this. Right in the logo. There it is. What do we got? We got a tarpon, yellowfin tuna, marlin, and a Mako shark. And then trout and bass. But like, it's right there. This is weird. Wait a minute. Oh, here we go. I just saw a tab for angling rules. Let's check this out. This is the 2023 IGFA Tournament Guidebook. Let's check this out. Lures. Pretty interesting, actually. Oh, here we go. Wait, hold on. Release guides. Okay, sorry, I think I just saw it. So we got billfish, identification. I don't see... Okay, so maybe I don't see a Mako Shark in here. This is just tuna. And billfish and spearfish. Okay. I wonder if I could just look for this. Nope. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Maybe this is just a fishing tournament without Makos. I don't know. I promise we won't spend a lot of time in here. I'm just kind of curious. Gamefish database. Here we go. This one. Okay. So this is actually really cool. We could search for this, but I just like. This is actually. Oh, here we go. Here we go. What? All right, hammerheads are here. Here we go. Mako Shark. Here we go. So this is the official thing for this. Okay, current all tackle record is a 553 kilogram or 1,200 pound individual. Okay. Talk about what a Mako Shark is. The Mako is a known enemy of the broadbill swordfish. In one case, a 730 pound Mako was found to have swallowed a 120 pound swordfish whole. A hooked Mako will unleash all its fury, reportedly leaping as high as 30 feet. What? This is weird. Okay. So there's nothing about, like, you're not allowed to touch this. This is really weird. Okay, contact us. They're based in Florida. Let's see if Florida's got something. Florida Shark... I don't know, Florida Marine Resources Commission? I don't know what Florida's thing is. Florida Wildlife Commission. I'm assuming this is what it is. Am I going crazy? No. What? Wait, I'm sorry guys, this is really throwing me off. Okay, you cannot fish for a longfin Mako, so prohibited species in Florida. The following species of shark, or any part of the following species, are prohibited from all harvest, possession, landing, purchase, sale, or exchange. So this is very similar to the Virginia list. And it's got the longfin Mako, and it's got the scalped hammerhead, thank you Florida, and the smooth hammerhead, thank you Florida, but it doesn't have the Mako Shark. Well, that's wild. That's a little crazy. Wow. So in Virginia you cannot touch Mako Sharks, but in Florida you can. That's weird. And conversely, in Florida you cannot touch hammerheads. But in Virginia, you can. So, like, what? So that is definitely confusing, but that makes sense. So, okay. Yeah, sorry. This is a mystery I really wanted to kind of solve, and I don't think it's solved. I think everything is confusing. But so this International Game Fish Commission is based, International Game Fish Association is based in Florida. Florida, you're legally allowed to get a shortfin Mako, but not a longfin Mako. And then this profiles, I know it says Isurus species, but this image is actually of the shortfin Mako. So that's mind-blowing. I really thought that there wasn't that much variation between the states. I really didn't think that like two different states could be that different. But yeah, that's really wild. What do you guys think? Like that's kind of crazy, actually. I learned something new in a dimension I was not expecting. Yeah. Love that, Roy. Leave the Mako alone. Yeah, but that makes sense, actually, because I think, because my buddy was also in Florida when he was like making that comment and was getting kind of some flack for it. So I guess it's technically legal in Florida for a shortfin Mako, which is, wow, that is really weird. Man, thank you. Strange laws. Yeah, like there's a podcast I really love called Hello Internet, and the two co-hosts got into a funny debate about like America versus Europe as far as traveling and stuff, and like state identity. And one of the hosts is like Australian, and the other, they're both British now, but like one grew up in Australia, one grew up in New York. And the American co-host made a really good point that like America is so big and the states can be so different legally in interesting ways that like it operates similarly in terms of, I don't know, like it's not an equivalent, but as far as like Europe, where you can kind of more easily go from country to country, like it's not an equivalent, but there's like something like that in terms of like, you know, even though it is like the United States is one country, the states can be really different in odd ways. Like probably the most famous is like the gas pumping stuff, where there are some states you cannot pump your own gas, which is, I will not comment on that, but there's some states that you can. But this, for sharks, this is the first time I've seen a state difference in sharks as far as like what you can and cannot land. So Florida and Virginia, different regulations. And I personally kind of think it's a little odd. I mean, because it's like, I kind of feel like conservation is more of like a national thing, or should be a national thing, as far as like what management plans. You know, I find it a little strange that states can have a difference like this, especially on a species that is like considered to be endangered, you know. So and actually, you know, as much as I love Virginia, I mean, it's the same thing. Like hammerheads are mad endangered. Like, you know, and Virginia doesn't have laws against them. Again, like laws saying like you really shouldn't be fishing hammerheads. So I don't know, it's kind of fascinating. Like wow, so that was an odd direction, but enlightening in a weird way. So I guess the waters are muddy as far as like what you can and cannot do with Makos. So on the global stage, you know, it does have a lot of attention for conservation, but then when you kind of like get more granular and take a look at what local governments are doing in terms of like what you can and cannot do, it's interesting that Virginia is like, you cannot fish for Mako sharks, and then Florida is like, you can. And it's interesting, especially kind of like referencing culturally, this is a famous game fish. You know, I don't know, man, it's odd. I'm glad we, I mean, I know it was a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I'm really glad we went down there, because it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's a really important, I don't know what the word is. I think that was a really important journey. So, yeah. Alright, we're going to move on. But thank you for indulging me on that, because it's just like, that's really fascinating, actually. So, okay. Back to Florida Museum Natural History. Let's see if there's anything else we got. More so on the biology side, in terms of what this shark is. We talked about conservation, which kind of sent us on this journey. I'm not going to look up what California is doing. I'm sure there's a similarly complicated situation in California. So, oh, cool! Check this out. Genetic work has identified 3 distinct subpopulations of the shortfin Mako. These are assessed separately under the IUCN. Oh! I wonder if that's what kind of screwed us up earlier. Interesting. I think you can find this in the search. Check it out. Here we go. We've got the Shortfin Mako, the global assessment, which is endangered. The Shortfin Mako, the European assessment, which is data deficient. And then the Shortfin Mako, the Mediterranean assessment, which is critically endangered. Let's take a quick look at that, because I do want to take a peek at research. What's going on for critically endangered? A lack of appropriate data precludes the confirmation of whether Mediterranean Shortfin Mako constitute a distinct subpopulation. Data suggests a nursery area exists in the Western Mediterranean basin. Interesting. Where bycatches of species from the tuna and swordfish fishery consist almost exclusively of juveniles. It's possible the nursery area corresponds to the Eastern Central Atlantic subpopulation. Wow. In the Adriatic Sea, the species was considered common at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th centuries, but since 1972, there have been no records reported despite a large increase in fishing pressure and introduction of new fishing gear to the area. Given the fact that nothing has changed in terms of management or fishing effort in the Mediterranean Sea, since the previous assessment, the status will be carried over. The Shortfin Mako is therefore listed as critically endangered in the Mediterranean Sea, based on steep localized declines and possible local extinctions in several areas of the region. Inadequate management resulting in continuing, if not increasing, fishing pressure throughout the region. The high value of the Shortfin Mako's meat and fins, the sensitive life history characteristics of the species, and ongoing captures of juveniles in a probable nursery area. So that's terrible. But yeah, critically endangered in the Mediterranean. I will say, we talked about this before, but as far as like the North Atlantic is concerned, Mediterranean is a big spot where there's a lot of sharks that are not doing so well. And it makes sense, being just surrounded by, people and fishing efforts, like, there's not as much refuge. So angel sharks very famously are not doing so well in the Mediterranean, but there's a lot of sharks in the Mediterranean that are just not doing great. But it's sad that the Shortfin Mako is one of them at critically endangered. So let's see. Talked about Mako could be found everywhere in the world. I mean, like temperate and tropical waters around the world. True pelagic species, primarily resident in oceanic waters, but can also be found near the coast where the continental shelf is short. Gotcha. That's cool. Shortfin Mako body is conic cylindrical and markedly hydrodynamic. I love that everybody talks about this as yeah, this shark is like a Ferrari. This thing is just like this is just one of the arguably the most streamlined shark in the world. So the tail has a high aspect ratio, the ratio of height to length, which produces maximum thrust with minimum drag and provides almost all the propulsion for the shark. Very cool. They're talking about long-fin Makos versus short-fin Makos, which is cool. Long-fin Mako resembles a short-fin Mako, but has the larger pectoral fins and larger eyes. Interesting. That's cool. Color is a deep metallic blue dorsally and white ventrally. I'm glad we got rock music in the background. I mean, because this shark is metal. It's super cool. Oh, cool. Howard Care. They need a federal protection agency to merger protections. In some cases, a nursery may exist that requires special protection. Very cool. I'm just starring that. Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, I definitely... I don't know how like, as far as the ins and outs of how these laws are made and how these regulations are made, you know, I'm curious like what the backstory is for like why there's variances between the states. You know, and I mean, like literally, like a deep dive investigative report of like why these differences exist in terms of, you know, what interests are there between the states, you know, or sorry, within each state. But you know, I agree with like less is more in terms of just like having a. I think just national management is better as far as endangered species are concerned. But then again, I mean, like, I don't know. That might be a controversial opinion because it's like, it gets back into, and this is like a classic American debate, but like it gets back into like state power versus federal power in terms of like, does national management lose sight of localized nuances, or do localized nuances like try to do their own thing at the expense of what actually might be data driven and like what actually might be the right thing as far as protection goes and management goes. So like it's a good conservation debate actually. So but I'm personally kind of like, you know, like synchronization I think is important. But again, it's a good debate. It's a good debate. I would love conservationists to maybe make a good case in terms of like, you know, for sharks, should we have like more of a streamlined, like federally managed plan as far as like just, you know, there shouldn't be deviances or deviations between the states, that each state should really actually be complicit in the same plan so there's no confusion and no weird little loopholes? Or should each state, you know, does each state really have a valuable reason to have these nuances? You know, like, is it in some way, shape, or form essential to the state's economy, or like, you know, does somehow a state have a magically happy, stable population, which I doubt. I don't know. You know, it's a good debate. It's actually a really, really good debate. So I would love any comments on that. Again, for like present or future viewers, just like leave comments in terms of like shark management, and you know, just I would also love hot takes as far as, do certain entities or states or bodies like have good management plans or poor management plans? You know, worthy discussion. So global warming will also influence the shark populations and might require new protections. Very good observation. Yes. Good, yeah, just because it's like range shift is a thing that is happening. Famously, as far as sharks go, like bull sharks are moving up north, which is kind of wild. And the coolest thing, I know I've talked about this before, but the coolest thing has been like bull sharks possibly pupping in North Carolina, which is bonkers because Florida is historically where bull sharks pup. But to extend that potential pupping range up to North Carolina, and that was a really recent study, that was like maybe 5 years ago, but like to potentially like like increase that range up northward, you know, possibly, I mean, probably as a result of global warming, because bull sharks do prefer higher temperature waters. They really don't want to be in water that's below 20 degrees Celsius. They need to be like higher than that. So, but yeah, I mean, for all conservation, regardless of like whether it's marine or terrestrial, like, yeah, global warming has important implications. And, you know, as the climate changes and as the habitat changes, you know, that's a very real concern. That is management going to change in some way? So, Roy Mako Sharks should be a metal band. I'm curious. Let me Google that. I feel like someone has by this point Mako band. Someone has to have had a rock. Yeah, there's a musical artist named Mako. Probably had nothing to do with sharks though. Let's just say Mako. Oh, he's a DJ. Okay, Mako Shark. Sorry. The Moose Mako? I don't know. Okay. There's probably a lot of play with the term Mako as far as like a rock band name. So, like, shark management is part of the New World Order. At the very least, the various states should agree on standards and protective measures per species. Yes, I agree with that. I'm gonna start that, Howard. Because I agree just having synchron. Yeah, actually, I definitely agree with that because I think I was a little cagey a few seconds ago, but the more I think about it, it's like sharks do have at least sharks in America, they're highly migratory. They do have like an enormous habitat that transcends state waters and state boundaries. So, like I would say for like most terrestrial animals, like they could be more localized, and so maybe the debate is more warranted for terrestrial habitats as far as like, does it really make sense for like a federal plan? But for sharks, which have a huge range, and they don't really have a localized, like Florida, I would say has like some local. Oh yeah, but that's the thing. Damn, this is interesting. Sorry, the wheels are turning because like Florida does have localized shark populations. Like Florida does have like year-long resident shark populations. But up the coast does not, because like Florida has like a stable tropical environment, and I know there's like some shark species that do reside in Florida year round, but when you go further up, like in the mid-Atlantic, there's no resident shark unless you're like in really deep water, because there's so much temperature variation. The sharks are super migratory up the mid-Atlantic coast, so in that sense, like. More of like a stable standard management plan for mid-Atlantic species makes sense because like there's not going to be a major difference between like Virginia and Maryland and Rhode Island. Like it's basically the same habitat that's occupied by the same species, and they're using it in the same way, kind of. I mean, there's nuances for nursery areas, but like at the same time, it's like all sharks are migratory in the mid-Atlantic, so. Unless you're in super deep water. But for Florida, damn. Because we're like the one state that I'm thinking of that actually arguably has a stable shark population is also the one state that is like we're talking about tonight in terms of like, like having a different set of rules. Like, I don't know how much of that correlates. I do find it like not cool that you're allowed to fish for Makos in Florida personally, because it's like, no, that's an endangered species. And also, actually with Mako sharks specifically, if any species is not a resident species, it's a Mako shark. Because Makos like travel, like they have huge ranges. They transcend state boundaries, country boundaries. Like, I don't know. This is a good debate actually. It's a good question. I'm sorry. As I'm talking, I just realized I just have this. The screen is just like on Jaws. Let's put on a cool background and kind of think about this more, because it's like I feel like for the most part, sharks. It makes sense for sharks in the U.S. federally managed, because there's not going to be a big difference between the states. At least on the Atlantic coast, because all the Atlantic species are migratory, except for the ones in Florida, because some of the species in Florida do have resident populations. On the Pacific coast, there are, I would imagine, there's shark species that have also resident populations, and I'm thinking specifically of horn sharks, because those are small, like, bottom-dwelling, reef-dwelling, not reef-dwelling, but like rocky habitat-dwelling species, so I would not call that a migratory species. So that would make, I don't know. Like, that would make sense that, like, that's not a resident species, and so, like, a state management plan for that kind of makes more sense to me, but... Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Audio and video fuzzy. Oh, no. Sorry. My computer and my brain... My brain and my computer were both kind of, like, really, like... Wheels are turning on, like... there we go. Audio's back. Yeah, wheels are turning on, like, we're crunching too much. We're it's a good debate. It's a good debate. Federal management versus state management. I think for the Atlantic coast, federal management kind of makes more sense for sharks, because most sharks have a huge range and will be occupying all state waters more often than not in a similar way. but is kind of my guess. But I think there's nuances that make it a very interesting debate. If you look at rarity, Canada may see only occasional sightings of certain species and deserve even greater protections. So that's an interesting comment, because it's like for shark management, like I think the heart of a lot of species is like, you know, what is like the nexus of their life history? Like what are the nursery areas? Where do they spend most of their time? Because like, for example, what if there's a, like, let's say white sharks. So white sharks do occur in Canada. And recently, I think there's been speculation that a nursery is in Massachusetts, right? So like, or Long Island, is it Long Island Sound or Massachusetts? Like somewhere in that area is a speculation of a white shark nursery. So like, what if like a white shark spends the most important parts of its life history kind of in that area, and then a large adult wanders up to Nova Scotia, but comes back? It's really rare from the perspective of Nova Scotia, but as far as like its general life history, it actually might be like, you know, like it's concentrated more like as far as like the purview of like where it spends most of its life history, it's actually going to be more in the United States. Like in that scenario, should Canada have stricter regulations because it's technically rarer, or is it really like, you know, this is really more like America should have like stricter regulations because that's where its life history is more? Like, and these are open-ended questions, because like it kind of gets to the heart of like what ICAD and Sims and like sites, like what all these different countries are talking about in terms of like how many countries does a certain species like interact with. And as far as fishing goes, like, you know, is it fair that, you know, like a Mako shark has protection in the United States, and that same shark can swim over to like Britain and have a different kind of, you know, or Spain and have a different kind of protection or lack of protection, or like the U.S. and Mexico, you know, like these are, I think this is like essentially the heart of shark management, you know, and like global shark management in terms of like these questions of like, you know, we might be, or like one country might be doing efforts that help sharks and like protect them, but then another country could like, you know, not do the same thing at all. And, you know, a species might, an individual migrating from one country to another, you know, like, is it really fair that we're, you know, consciously not using this as a resource, but another country does not care and just uses it as a resource anyway? And so despite our efforts, you know, it will harvest the species. Like again, these are open-ended questions. These are just like I think what I really appreciate about like this whole Florida Virginia thing, and then just where the discussion is going, it's really getting into like the heart of just shark management in the world, you know, which is why, you know, these conventions happen and why, you know, movement is so slow. Is because every country and every fishery, you know, has special interest, and, you know, there's a lot of debates, or like a lot of like what's the word, like the fact that sharks are so migratory and occupy so many different parts of the world, you know, and they're uniquely so as far as like animals go, it brings up a unique slew of challenges in terms of it can move from one area with like one set of laws into another area with a completely different set of laws, and it's going to affect those economies in one way or another. And it's just like it's the point is, it's like it's muddy waters, it's a mess, and it's really worthy. It's just really worthy discussion. It's like basically like the heart of like what we're talking about right now is what these conventions talk about. Like, you know, it's interesting. I just saw this comment. I think the scarcity of sighting demonstrates the importance of protecting them, as populations may be testing an area for future habitat. Maybe. I mean, like, it depends on the species. But these are really good questions. I mean, in terms of like, especially again, kind of pointed back to climate change. You know, these are really good questions. That's actually excellent thinking as far as Canada specifically goes, because I know like a famous example of climate change range shift has happened in Antarctica, where with warming waters, krill are kind of concentrating at higher and higher latitudes in Antarctica, and simultaneously it's affecting where the whales go. So you can look at Canada kind of similarly, actually, in terms of like, you know, are there certain species that are experiencing range shifts? Because like Canada, you know, as far as the Canadian waters go, it's like a cold temperate environment. But you know, as the waters warm, is it welcoming more and more? Like is habitat being created for more species, or are any species like extending their ranges more northward? Like even as far as Canada, you know, and like is there any, like that's a really good question. Like is what I'm trying to say is like you know, if there's an uptick in certain shark sightings, you know, like is that correlating to increased habitat use as a result of global warming? I mean, it's a good question. That's actually a really good question. So, yeah, I'm starring that. So thank you for sharing that, Howard, because that's a really, really good question and observation. So, let's see. And that'd be kind of fascinating because I know, like, for Canada, there's... Let me think about this. I think about 30 species, and it'd be kind of wild if that number increases over time. So, I don't know, like just with some of these changes. So, man, this is a really cool this stream, and like this kind of stuff. This is probably the most thought-provoking stream we've had, actually, like as far as shark management goes, which is fitting for Makos. You know, like this is a really great nexus for this kind of discussion. So. Let's see. I think we got through most of Florida Museum of Natural History. Shortfin Makos are estimated to live 29 to 32 years. Yeah, you know, it's... Wow. It's pretty cool. Shortfin Mako is the fastest recorded shark. They feed on other fast-moving pelagic fishes such as swordfish, tuna, and other sharks, as well as squid. Oh! Marine mammals and sea turtles are occasionally ingested by this species. Now, I'm very curious what the circumstances are for that, because, again, the dentition is definitely more for fish, right? So, that can mean a lot of things, because immediately you think of, like, the big sea turtle, but, like, hey, could this mean, like, baby sea turtles? Could this mean, like, marine mammal carrion? I don't know. So, this is from Calliet et al. 2009. So, if we have time, we might want to check that out later. But, yeah, because this species definitely wants to... This species definitely wants to go after more like fish. This is really cool. Mako bite marks on a swordfish. That's actually really cool. And that's actually, this scar is really awesome because you can see that distinct U shape right there of the lower jaw. That's actually really crazy. Whoa, okay. Shortfin Makos are slow growing, with males reaching maturity at 7 to 9 years of age and females not before 18. That's crazy. That's really late, actually. This, along with a 3-year reproductive cycle, renders Makos vulnerable to overfishing. Oof. Once young hatch in the uterus, they feed by oophagy. Oophagy is ingestion of unfertilized eggs. So, okay, sorry, I'm losing my mind. Unfertilized eggs, sorry. So, so oophagy is not technically, I guess, the same as intrauterine cannibalism, but it's, yeah. That's the right word for that, so sorry for that. Larger sharks may feed upon juvenile shortfin Makos. Adult Makos likely fall prey only to humans. Oh, hey, look at this. 1,000-pound, 470-kilogram shortfin Mako caught off the coast in Nova Scotia. So I was just talking about Nova Scotia, but you know, it's sad to see, but you know, it lives in Canada. So let's see, parasites. Species name. I'm curious about this. So Isurus is Greek for equal tail, referring to its lunate caudal fin. Very cool. Oxyrhynchus is translated from Greek oxy, which equals sharp, and rhynchus, which equals nose. So the sharp nose, equal tail, I guess is like the literal translation for it, for Isurus oxyrhynchus. So very cool. All right, so we're at 10:30, but let's see. We're definitely going to keep going. I've had so many things pulled up that I'm not really even sure where to start. Probably the best place is good old Canada. I think we should probably check out what this is. This is the Kosowik Assessment and Status Report of the Shortfin Mako Atlantic population in Canada. So I think this is probably a good place to be. As it was 2006, it's threatened. So Kosowik is the Committee on the Status of Endangered Wildlife in Canada. Very cool. Have you guys heard of this before, or? Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna take a quick drink of water. All right. All right. Never heard of them. Yeah, I haven't either. What's really cool is I don't think I've seen a lot of Canadian outlets for shark research, but the few that I've seen are really cool. Like the few that I've seen are really pretty robust studies actually. So here we go. So Shortfin Mako. So I guess this is like a general assessment profile, which I think would be cool to check out. The status is threatened. This was made in 2006, so this is probably updated. So just it's kind of like a pin in that, but. Let's see. Let's talk about how it matures really late. Individuals found in Atlantic Canada are considered part of the larger North Atlantic population. There does not appear to be any reason to assume that the Canadian Atlantic population is demographically or genetically independent from the larger North Atlantic population, so the status of the species in Atlantic Canada should reflect the status throughout the North Atlantic. Let's see. This is cool. Although there is no decline in an indicator of status for the portion of the species that is in Atlantic Canada, two analyses suggest recent declines in the North Atlantic as a whole. 40% from the 1986 to 2001, 50% from 1971 to 2003. The main causes of species decline, mortality due to bycatch and longline and other fisheries, are understood and potentially reversible, but the sources of mortality have not been adequately reduced. Gotcha. Oh, in French, this species is known as... Oh boy, actually, why did I do that? Someday I will learn French. Here we go. Requin Tap Bleu. It's probably terrible. Requin Tap Bleu. Whatever. Requin Tap Bleu. I don't know. A plus French. Someday I will learn this language, but it's important to say it. Canada is officially bilingual, so yes, we must say it. Shortfin Makos are identified by a pointed snout, caudal keel, U-shaped mouth, with teeth that extend outside the mouth. So, let's see. In Canadian Atlantic waters, the Shortfin Mako is typically associated with warm waters, such as in and around the Gulf Stream. That's really cool. I never thought about that. Cause it's really cool reading Gulf Stream and Canada in the same sentence, which makes sense. But like the Gulf Stream breaks offshore around North Carolina and then goes almost like directly towards like the United Kingdom. But it's actually really cool to think about, like, yeah, along that journey, I mean, it is technically in Canadian waters. So I just never really thought about that before. So that's really cool. Excuse me. It has been recorded from Georges and Browns Bank, along the continental shelf of Nova Scotia, the Grand Banks, which is like the shark mecca. That's a really, really important place for shark biomass, and even to the Gulf of St. Lawrence. There's only one known record from Canada's Pacific water. Canada's. I am losing it. Canada's Pacific waters, Shortfin Makos are likely only occasional visitors to Canada's Pacific waters during periods of higher than normal ocean temperatures. Shortfin Makos have been shown to be highly migratory as determined from conventional tagging studies. Let's see. They like to be in temperate and tropical waters. They are seldom in waters less than 16 degrees Celsius. Prefer water temperatures between 17 and 22 degrees Celsius. That's actually really cool. That's actually a bit warmer than I was expecting. Yeah, I didn't think it would be that warm, because it lives in the open ocean, so it's like the temperature would be colder. So I don't know. In the Atlantic, they are often associated with Gulf Stream waters. Got you. One fun fact, we might have talked about this before, but like the Gulf Stream, as it's like going through the North Atlantic, it creates this phenomenon called like eddies, where it's basically like it's kind of like, imagine like an underwater. I'm trying to think of a good word for this. It's like an underwater bubble, or an underwater like cyclone, like an underwater column, like a big ball of water that when it rips off of the Gulf Stream, it's this big ball of warm water that will have a lot of tropical fish in it, and then it does this counter effect where it makes another parallel ball of cold water. So these are warm core eddies and cold core eddies, and what's really cool about these eddies is that they will bring weird wildlife to areas that they're not supposed to be in. The best example is lionfish, where lionfish get caught in warm core eddies, and they'll actually be transported up to like Rhode Island, New York. Angelfish, same thing. One weird one for a cold core eddy has been orcas, where I think orcas were found off Virginia Beach in North Carolina a couple years ago, and the theory was they might have gone trapped in a cold core eddy, like where they normally wouldn't be there, but they just kind of like were comfortable in that cold core eddy, and it was like going down the coast. So it's a really cool phenomenon that you'll get surprising wildlife when that happens. So it's a cool thing, just like a fun random fact about the Gulf Stream. The more we like study sharks, and the more like the more I learn about the ocean personally, like the more like amazed I am by like how important the Gulf Stream is, and like how like actually really cool it is for doing little things like the eddies. So just random fun side tangent. Let's see. Canadian waters represent northern limits to the distribution in the western North Atlantic. The typical offshore habitat of the species is not readily impacted by either anthropogenic or catastrophic natural events. So, okay, we're talking about reproduction. Their body temperature, Shortfin Mako's body temperature is often 1 to 10 degrees Celsius above ambient water temperature. The greatest source of adult mortality is from commercial fisheries. I think I should make a comment. As much time as we spent talking about recreational fishing and we did talk about commercial fishing in Virginia, but like as much time as we spent about like recreational fishing in Florida and whatever was its website again? Sorry about that. International Game Fish Association. I will have to say there is a very big difference between recreational fishing and commercial fishing, whereas commercial fishing is an enormous operation, and recreational fishing is not as impactful. So I do need to make a comment on that, just in terms of like, it's important. I think it's important to be, to be aware of conservation, apply conservation everywhere, but as far as like, it's kind of like the same argument as, it's important for each of us as an individual to be energy efficient, but also there's like major factories like in different countries that just spew out so much crap. So I think in a similar way, it's important to make a distinction between recreational fishing and commercial fishing, where commercial fishing is a huge impact and recreational fishing does not proportionally have the same kind of impact. So I just wanted to make a comment on that. I think all conservation is good. I think awareness in every sector is good, but I think it's important to make a comment on that, So let's see. There are no reliable population level stock assessments available for shortfin mako anywhere in the North Atlantic or Pacific. Trend information based on declines in catch rates in the entire Northwest Atlantic suggests that the shortfin mako population may have decreased by up to 50% in the past 15 to 30 years. There's some evidence of decline in the median size of shortfin mako landed in Atlantic waters, which may be an indicator of fishing pressure. So I don't know if we've talked about that specifically. I feel like if we haven't, I should have brought this up earlier, but have we talked about shifting baseline, where like it's a scary phenomenon actually, where like our grandparents' generation like used to be able to catch really huge fish, and you know what they think of as small back in the day is now considered to be huge today, because you know as time has gone on, we've been fishing so much that you know fish are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Like it's getting less and less likely for fish to grow to a huge size, and so there's this shifting baseline effect where like you know my grandfather's generation would be like, you know, I caught a 50-pound fish, that's kind of small. My father's generation would be like, I caught a 50-pound fish, that's pretty big. And then my generation is like, I caught a 50-pound fish, that's huge. You know, where it's like because time is like because the change is happening so gradually, you know, we don't really realize it's happening. And so like our estimates of like what's kind of big is actually, you know, woefully much smaller than like what things have been in the past. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like I don't know if I explained that really well, but it is a really terrifying phenomenon where, and again, it's another reason why conservation is so important, and paying attention to conservation is so important, because so many changes are happening at such a large scale that it's easy to lose sight of like how much is happening. And what was the comment that made me think about this? Oh, decline in medium size of shortfin mako. So yeah, like it actually is a real thing that shortfin makos maybe 100 years ago probably on average were larger than the ones that we're getting today. Oh, awesome! I saw a comment from Howard. I got it. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Because it's like I think it's kind of closed out. Yeah, that's something that I think, especially today, especially in the past 10, 20 years, where so much attention is devoted to all these other things, like social media and stuff. There's so much things that are like taking up attention that I feel like phenomenon like shifting baselines is like more and more important to understand. I really appreciate that it's, I think it's a solid topic in school, you know, in terms of like, you know, as far as like biology class, like in terms of like, yeah, shifting baselines are a really important thing. So I appreciate that focus on it. But yeah, it's an important phenomenon to understand, where it's like, yeah, you know, like it's good to think about like how we're doing compared to like on the major time scale, like, you know, as far as conservation goes. So yeah. And actually one thing we did talk about, this was like early in the live stream, is the fact that smaller sharks like the sharp-nosed shark might be the ones that are going to be the most successful, because they're able to reproduce quickly and grow quickly, and larger sharks, you know, are arguably the most at peril. You know, it kind of relates in a weird way. Like ultimately, if the smaller sharks are successful, the average size of sharks in the world is kind of going to be smaller. You know, like if the, you know, the most successful kinds of sharks against fishing pressure are going to be the ones that are small and reproduce quickly, it ultimately kind of adds to that shifting baseline phenomenon, where things are kind of trending smaller as far as wildlife goes. So, kind of a cool one for terrestrial wildlife is deer, or like terrestrial megafauna, where, you know, like we back in like, is it the Pleistocene? Do I have this right? Let's check it is the Pleistocene. Okay, back in the Pleistocene, you know, there was like humongous Irish deer, I think, or like mammoths and mastodons in North America, and like, you know, they're not here anymore. You know, just like when we think of a deer, we think of the ones that unfortunately we hit with our cars. But back in the day, there are some crazy, enormous, weird deer that like are actually terrifying. Elk. It's like this Irish giant elk. What is this? We don't have time to look that up. But like, anyway, sorry. This is a weird little tangent. But and I lost my place on this. Median size, indicator fishing pressure, is estimated mortality in Canada's Atlantic waters accounts for less than 2% of mortality in the entire North Atlantic. So, this is cool. Shortfin Mako is an opportunistic apex predator with a wide prey base, and as such is likely important in structuring marine ecosystems. Their palatable meat, combined with energetic behavior, make them a prized game fish. Shortfin Makos are also commercially traded due to their high-value meat. Existing protection. In Canada, Shortfin Makos receive some protection through fisheries management regulations. There is a non-restrictive catch guideline of 250 tons quota for directed fisheries only. In Canadian waters, all catch is non-directed by catch and therefore has no catch limits, so the catch guideline has little or no practical conservation benefit. Gotcha. Removal of fins and discarding of the shark at sea has been prohibited in Canada and in the US for several years. And recently, ICAT imposed a regulation to prohibit finning on the high seas. The ICN assessed the Shortfin Mako in 2000 and listed it as lower risk, near threatened. Oh no! Yikes. So, speaking of shifting baseline, that's actually absolutely terrifying. So look at that. The IUCN assessed Shortfin Mako in 2000, that's only 23 years ago, as lower risk or near threatened, right? Now it's endangered, it's the Mediterranean population. But now it's endangered. You know, so only 23 years ago, this was considered to be like in this area, right? And then now it's in the endangered area. So it's like, yep. Yeah. We gotta pay attention to our sharks. It's definitely happening. And like, you know, I mean, as much as like Shark Week annoys me in a lot of ways, I mean, I'm kind of grateful for some of it in terms of like at least it's a platform to talk about sharks and conservation. Some of the specials do talk about conservation because it's like sharks are really, truly not doing very well. As a whole, you know, like a third of them are really not doing so well. Some of them are fine, but some of them are really not doing well, and that's particularly kind of terrifying for Mako sharks. That 23 years ago we thought it was kind of okay, and then now it's like, nope, it's an endangered species. So that's terrifying. And I think this is more stuff about Coswick itself. Oh. And this is more detail. Oh my god. We won't be able to get through all of this tonight, but this is more details on the report on the Mako specifically. So go Canada. Wow. We'll kind of skip ahead. I just want to see if there's any cool figures of this. This is really awesome. And this actually... Damn. Okay, this actually... I didn't realize this was so robust, so this might actually kind of carry us through all night. Roy, no. I just saw your comment. I feel like, no, you're not a bad omen, man. You're awesome. Yeah, like 2000's a good year to be. 2000's a good year. It's the new millennium. It's a good year to. You're awesome. You're fine. Howard, Irish elk. Gotcha. They found a pair of Irish elk here when they put in the Spadina subway station. Really? Whoa, that is super cool, actually. Because I didn't realize Irish elk. It makes sense that they were in North America, but I had no idea. I had no idea that they were here before. So that's awesome. Super cool. So I think this Canadian report. Yeah, of course, Roy, man. Yeah, of course. High five, man. I think this Canadian report is probably going to be. I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff in it, so just in case this might take us all the way, like, because it's almost 11, I think. Is that right? Yeah, geez. Wow, this has been a fun stream. It's almost 11. So just in case this is going to take us to the end of the night, let me know what shark you guys would like to do next week. Oh, we've had giant beaver here too. Ooh, very cool. Very cool. I actually, what's really cool where I live, I do have a family of beavers nearby, so I see them from time to time. But that's actually one of my favorite, like, sharks aside, like, there's a lot of other kinds of animals that are a favorite, but like beavers are one of them. They have like a special place in my heart, just because like they're ingenious. They're actually really funny, just in terms of like their construction. Like I've seen beavers like not build things but chew through things, and it's just kind of really funny how focused they are when they do that. So, but anyway, but yeah. So for next week, and we're still going to go through this Canadian report, but let me know of a shark that you guys would like to cover next week. The week after, I am going to be out of town. I'm going to be doing something in New Orleans, but I will be back the week after that. But anyway, we still have a stream next week. So what are the dates on that? So next week, the 11th, we have a stream, and then I will be out of town the 18th, and then back the 25th. So, oh, cool. Howard Care love Wolverines, Martins, and Fishers. So that is super cool because we allegedly have Fishers. I've never seen it, and I'm suspicious of that for us. But like that group though, like you know, because like, those are all weasels, right? Like technically weasels, like mustelids, I think. I could be wrong, but but that group really fascinates me, and it's just like. It's so cool. So that's actually, those are good picks, man. Those are awesome, especially Wolverines. Like I can't imagine, like I cannot imagine what it's like to like be in an area with Wolverines. It's so cool. But anyway, yeah, let me know what shark you guys like to cover next week, and then we'll keep going here for some more Mako Shark stuff in Canada. And then also, for any viewer, present or future, this species has so much info. There is so much on it. So there's no way we'll be able to cover everything tonight. It's been an awesome stream, but there's no way we're going to get everything tonight. But for further curiosity, I even pulled up fossilguide.com, great website. For further curiosity, just type in Shortfin Mako, Isurus oxyrhynchus. And there's a lot of cool stuff out there that people are able to get. Just like as far as research goes, there's a lot of cool studies. It's a very robustly studied shark. So, yeah. And we're definitely, as far as I'm concerned, we definitely can't do sequel streams because it's like there's 500 plus sharks out there. It's like we gotta get through all of them. But if for some reason we do a sequel stream. This is a worthy species for a sequel, just because there's so much information on it. I don't think we're gonna ever do a sequel stream, but it's a worthy species. So, all right, here we go. Let's get into some of the meat of this Canadian report on the Shortfin Mako. And we're doing this. I'm doing this. Shout out to you, Canada. We're doing this for you because much of our community, like the pillars of our Dr. Jaws community, is Canadian. So it is a great nation. So here we go. Let's see. Talk about the longfin Mako. Oh, this is cool. Other lambda sharks found in Canada include the white shark. So I knew that, but it's kind of cool to confirm that. Great whites are found in Canada. Salmon shark and the porbeagle. Very cool. Okay. It's cool. Based on the coloration, it's been suggested that a population around the Azores may represent a distinct local population worthy of population variant status. Very cool. So Makos of the Azores, which we talked about recently, might be a unique group. That's very cool. Morphological description. We'll kind of keep going. I love this though, like just how they're describing the colors. The dorsolateral coloration is brilliant blue or purplish. It's just all the descriptions for the color of this shark are always, they're very flattering. So. Oh, cool. Hold on. Sorry. I apologize if my screen keeps cutting out. I feel like it's cutting out on my end, but let's see. Oh, that's cool. Mako Sharks are famous yet disregarded by some. That's a good observation, because it's like I feel like for people in the know, whether that's sharks or fishing or conservation, like Mako Sharks are famous. But I kind of feel like in the general public, they don't get as much airtime as they should. So, Howard, the sleeper shark or Greenland shark? Yes. So let's actually, because we did the Greenland shark not recently. We did the Greenland shark this year, but there's actually quite a few different kinds of sleeper sharks. So let's check this out. Let's see. And I'm actually just checking out Sharks of the World right now. Finding a good one. Let's do a proper sleeper shark. There is a very rare species called the frog shark, which just caught my eye. We've got the frog shark, the little sleeper shark, the southern sleeper shark, and the Pacific sleeper shark. So I personally vote for either the frog shark for the memes or the Pacific sleeper shark, because I think the Pacific sleeper shark has a lot of info on it, and it's actually really cool to be doing a different kind of sleeper shark than the Greenland shark. But the frog shark has such a funny name, I'm a little curious about it. So let's see, frog shark or Pacific sleeper. Okay, Roy wants frog shark, so we're gonna do frog shark. I was about to add a comment about voting, but yeah, frog's catching my eye too. So okay, so next week is Somniosus longus. So it's the same genus as Greenland shark, but it is that's probably a good one to kind of like, you know, like since I'm gonna be out of town the following week, that's a good one to kind of like take a hiatus on, the frog shark. So yeah, next week is here. I'll type it in the comments. Frog shark, Somniosus longus. And I have no idea what kind of music we'll have for that. Like, I have no idea if there's like Frogger music. Actually, you know what? Frogger music might slap. I might try to find Frogger music, like, because there's so many different Frogger games that like they might have some good music. So anyway, back to the Mako shark. This is kind of cool, actually. I appreciate that they have a little description of the field, because, like, you know, when you're out in the wild, you can't go through all the measurements and everything, but in the field, shortfin makos are identified by a spindle-shaped body, a long, acutely conical snout, large blade-like teeth, narrow-tipped pectoral fins, a large first dorsal fin, and minute, pivoting second dorsal, a crescentic caudal fin, and ventral surface of body that is usually white. Misidentifications have occurred in warmer waters where the two Mako species ranges commonly overlap. However, in Canada, where longfin Makos are extremely rare, misidentification between the two species is not believed to be a problem. In Atlantic Canada, shortfin Makos have been misidentified as poor beagle shark. Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that happening, like, in the field. But poor beagle sharks are, you know, squatter. So interesting. Cool genetic study found that North Atlantic samples differ substantially from samples of South Atlantic, so North Atlantic and South Atlantic Makos are probably different. This is interesting. I'm not sure I got this right. There's a suggestion that females are strongly philopatric. Doesn't that mean philopatry? Okay, so returning to, or remaining near an area, a particular site or area. So there's a suggestion that female Mako sharks like to be in a certain area, and male Mako sharks are good dispensers. So male Mako sharks like to go around a lot of different areas. Okay, that's actually really cool. This pattern has been reported in other shark species. We all famously talked about that with, I think it was the sicklefin lemon shark did that, where females like to be in certain reefs and males like to hop different reefs. So it's actually really cool to see that possibly happening with, you know, a shark from an entirely different order. It's very cool. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Sorry, I just saw your comment, Howard. That is a possibility. Oh my gosh, that's great. Let's see. Tagging studies indicate that individuals are capable of transoceanic migrations. Very cool. Small Canadian tagging program applied a total of 110 tags to shortfin Makos. Only 5 recaptures, which show that some of the sharks migrate between continental shelf and offshore waters, and between Canadian and U.S. waters. Very cool. So we were talking about like crossing international boundaries. Very cool. The U.S. National Marine Fisheries Service, NIMFS, applied 3,000 tags to shortfin Makos. 320 tags were recovered. Most recaptures made in the U.S., but it's also shown that many shortfin Makos migrated over long distances. Very cool. Oh, this is cool. So this is a Canadian Mako shark tags. So 2 sharks were caught off the coast of Nova Scotia. One caught around, I think this is around where the New England seamounts are. One caught near New Jersey, and then one was tagged off Massachusetts and caught near Cape Hatteras. So very cool. Since it's past 11, I think we'll just kind of skip over to the figures. This is actually really exciting though. So the National Marine Fisheries Service tagged a lot of Mako sharks off my neck of the woods in the Mid-Atlantic, and it's look at all these recapture locations. It's actually really wild. One was in the Gulf, well, a few were in the Gulf of Mexico. Some going as far as Cuba, Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago. Like, look at this, is so cool. Some going in the far into the North Atlantic. So this is around the Grand Banks, I think, right? Grand Banks is somewhere here, like the really, really big, yeah, it is somewhere here. Grand Banks in Newfoundland is around here-ish somewhere. Although this is also kind of like in line with the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. It's really, really cool. Like, point being, it's interesting that sharks captured here. There seems to be a really big pattern where they're like going in this area and this area, as far as the Mako sharks go, or going down into Florida, Gulf of Mexico, Cuba area. That's actually really cool to kind of see that plotted out. So, all right, distribution. What? Distribution of shortfin Mako in Atlantic Canada. Now this is cool. I have never in my life seen a distribution chart like this. That is batty, but kind of cool. I mean, I've never seen something like this, but it's actually really cool. So low concentration. Am I reading this right? All record catch from Judicial Observer Program. Am I really reading this right? Like, this is 6,000. Each of the large bubbles is like 6,000 individuals plotted in like a quadrant. So if I'm reading this right, highest concentration is like in this shelf area. I don't know. Very cool. This is the weirdest little plot, but I mean, it's awesome, and it makes sense. I mean, like higher concentrations further away from the shelf, but anyway, keep going. I just want to see if there's any more graphs since we are kind of getting close to the end. Trendline of Shortfin Mako's catch per unit effort. That's what CPUE means. Declining. Atlantic longline effort increasing. I'm assuming this is not landings of Makos, but actually just the well, actually, I don't know. Okay, sorry. I was just kind of scanning that for cool like graphs and stuff. So I didn't realize this was going to be as robust of a report as it is, but it's actually really cool. There's one section about habitat preferences that I do want to check, and then I think we might go back to footage, and then I think we might call it a night. Because it just kind of caught my eye. Predation, life cycle reproduction, habitat requirements. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, temperature appears to be a critical component defining shortfin Mako distribution. We'll talk about their temperature range. In eastern North Pacific, 2 miles range in California waters, staying at the surface, with little tendency to descend into subsurface waters. Off California, small sharks are found to stay near the surface above 20 meters in depth and water near 21 degrees Celsius. So it's really cool that temperature is such a really important thing about Makos. And kind of tying that all the way back to when we were talking about climate change earlier. This would be a very interesting species to do a climate change study on. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Typical offshore habitat for the species is not readily affected by either anthropogenic or catastrophic natural events. Anthropogenic shifts in ocean temperatures, for example, global climate change, could influence the distribution and habitat of the species, but this has not yet been investigated. So, very worthy question. Much of the preferred habitat of the Shortfin Mako lies outside of any nation's exclusive economic zone. So Howard, this was actually tying into way in the beginning of the stream. You were asking earlier about the 200 miles offshore. There are no agreements for the protection of their habitat, nor if any other protective measures such as fishing exclusion zones have been established. Likewise, in Canadian waters, there are no habitat-related protective measures for Shortfin Mako. So, there. Biology, I think we kind of did most of this, so very cool. Evidence of predation by white sharks has been observed off California in the Mediterranean Sea and off South Africa, so white sharks go after these. Interesting. Shortfin Makos have few natural predators due to their relatively large size and ability for high speed. Makos have been caught with visible scars and injuries from interactions with sailfish and swordfish. A primary predator of Shortfin Makos are humans in the form of directed and incidental fishing mortality. It's so cool. I think we might end on just this awesome adaptation. So, Shortfin Makos are endothermic with body temperatures 1 to 10 degrees Celsius above ambient water temperature. This adaptation is advantageous in maintaining elevated swimming, visual, central nervous system, and digestive functions when the Makos are in cooler waters and higher latitudes, as in the case with those in Canadian waters, or when diving below the thermocline in warm waters. So that's freaking awesome. So yeah, let's see. Favorite video, I think, probably actually was, no, not this one, the first one, by Lucas Walter. This was probably like the coolest one that we saw, just like with just this high quality footage. So I think we'll end on this. So, but polka dot distribution, yay! I just saw that. So, but yeah, well, this was an awesome stream. I would say like just between the charisma of the species, the music, and then also just kind of like the doors that this shark opened, you know, in terms of the greater conversation of shark conservation. This was awesome. I really had a lot of fun, and it was really good seeing both of you guys back. Like, it was good to have you back, Roy. Howard, this was awesome. Just like I think just our general discussion as far as how one approaches conservation was really cool. So you guys are rock stars. Thank you so much for joining tonight, and thank you so much for just like, you know, all your feedback and all of your comments on just, you know, exploring the shark together. This one was super cool. This might be our best stream, actually. This might be kind of one of my favorites. Definitely one of my favorites. Yeah, just can't wait to see you guys again. So, but I hope you have a really good rest of your week. And actually, one comment really quick, which is kind of funny. Last week we did the gulper shark. And that's been the biggest stream so far, has been the gulper shark, which I'm really shocked by. So we'll see, like just as far as viewers, it's been really cool. So we'll see how this Mako Shark one does, but either way, this was a blast. So, but thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, have a great night, guys, and take care. Thanks so much, and we'll be back next week for the frog shark. So cheers, guys. Bye.